And welcome to Gate City Chronicles. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and I'm pleased to introduce you to Dani
Podvojsky.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's get started. You have a very unique craft, a gift, and a career, and it has to do with permanent makeup?
Permanent makeup and camouflage is how I'm listed.
And camouflage.
Correct.
So, I'm going to be funny here. Obviously, people don't want to be seen, so you...
Yes. Camouflage is, I have several doctors who will refer people to me. Someone of Eastern European or someone of a African where they have loss of pigment, vitiligo.
Oh.
I will blend it in. I have a fellow who comes up from New Jersey. He's Indian, Eastern European, and has a white spot in his lip, and I take care of that. It's easy to do the ethnic. White skin is hard to work with.
When you say permanent, this is permanent makeup. Is it like a permanent tattoo?
Tattooing. Permanent makeup is tattooing.
Okay.
But the pigments we use are different. The tools that I use are different. And the pigments actually also are bought stateside in New Jersey. They're formulated in the lab. I don't get them in a powder and mix them up with water like a tattoo artist would.
When I think of permanent, and I think of tattoos, I mean, usually you see all these tattoos, but it's becoming very popular, and I know you're not a tattoo artist or anything. But when you think of tattoos, you think of the green, faded colors that eventually starts off one color, but then it fades out. Does that happen here as well?
Okay, that is going to happen, and like I tell my clients, it's permanent insofar as it'll always be there, but not the intensity that you want.
I see.
Now, it may turn blue, it may turn a little green, but that's dependent upon the person's skin. So I work on a Fitzpatrick scale, and that's all cosmetologists or estheticians work on that. Mm-hmm. And so you have to know what's Fitzpatrick scale that person fits into, so you can determine, does she get a warm color or a cool color?
Oh, is that like the Color Me Beautiful? I'm a winter, you're a summer?
Well, no, not really, because if I put a cool color on a cool person, in no time they're going to turn gray or blue. So you want to counteract, just like on the color wheel, if you red and green is opposite. So if you want to tone something down, you mix red and green and you get kind of a brown. So you have to play around with it. So if someone comes in with a pink eyebrow, I'm going to go and I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put something with a blue in it, a bluish tinge pigment, which would be in a brown. I only deal with reds, browns, and blacks.
So you're a specialist?
I am. I've been doing it for 16 years.
In particular colors?
You have to be, yeah.
That's interesting. So this is the first time I've ever heard of this. Mm-hmm. And now there's specialists in colors. That's now, do you do lips? Do you do eyes? Do you do blotches on skin? What?
Yes, my specialty. Here's how I got it. Want to know how I got into this?
Yeah.
I'm allergic to so many things, and I was allergic to eye makeup, but I wanted eye makeup. But you had to change your eyebrow pencil every 3 weeks. It gets expensive. So I went to Hawaii, found this lovely Hawaiian woman, said, I'm from New England, very conservative. I need a couple little hair strokes because I'm losing hair, and maybe a little color around the eyes. Well, she made me look like a hooker. I had to go to Mass General and get laser, and I had high glycolic treatments that made big gullies to get pigment out. And that's when I said, I used to be a makeup artist. I could do better than this. So I went for training in Huntington Academy in California, Huntington Beach.
Now, she basically did the permanent stuff on you, but it failed. Or you had an allergic reaction.
Yeah, it was a lovely Hawaiian woman who I don't believe knew where New England was, didn't know what conservative was. And when I looked at her portfolio, I was very naive. It was all Japanese, there were no Caucasians. So she didn't really know how to deal me. And I was wondering why she was taking so long. And she says, you're such a lovely woman. I just did more for you. Yeah. And when I looked in the mirror,
sure that's a compliment.
I came home, and my husband said, what did you do? And I found out it's always better to ask forgiveness than permission. And I asked forgiveness because I didn't ask permission.
Right. Oh, very interesting.
And so I tell my clients, you're not going to look like this. I've been working on the remedies, for 16 years.
And what are your expertise colors?
Well, when I do the face, okay, or I also do areolas for women who have had mastectomies or some cancer, and I do those pro bono. I design an areola for them if they've had reconstruction or mastectomy of some sort, you know. But the colors I deal with are primarily for the face. I don't do greens or, you know, I don't do body art. When someone calls and they ask, do I do this tattoo? I say no. Yeah. And I don't like tattoos on women anyway.
Right. But so you're basically highlighting the areas. You're adding pigment, taking away pigment, or
yeah, I don't really take away. I will direct them to someone who will take away.
Okay.
And lasers, there's so many different types of lasers out there now that will do the work. But my specialty is for the woman over 50. That's when I decided. Everybody you see, you know, even on the Avard catalog, they're pushing older cosmetics to look great, but they got some 18-year-old or 20-year-old on there. So I say to my older clients and on my website, I want to enhance what you had at one time.
All right, so you're basically, people over 50 years old, are they generally who are the people that want
I have a lot
this?
of career women.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of career women, their lament is, boy, I'm competing with a very young workforce. I've got to look good.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. I think, gee, I could never work in the workforce. There's a lot of pressure up there. They're in very upfront positions, and they just have to make themselves look young.
Do you ever work on men?
Oh, yeah, I do. I do men. For men, there's a lot of men who have had face uplifts. So I do a lot of scar. I will break down scars, too, because if they have the scars behind the ears from
A lift?
A lift or hair transplants. Sometimes they get the crown in the back where the doctors pulled out hair to go put up here, and so they have this nice little smiley. And so I will go in there and simulate hair strokes. They'll have to come back, and I tell them, you got to wear a hat because it's going to fade. It's always exposed to the elements.
Is this painful?
No. To some degree. It depends. Everyone has their threshold.
Yeah.
But I use topicals. Now, when I had it done, no topicals. That was with a tattoo gun, and I kept saying, I must be out of my mind to have this done. And I almost gave it up when I first started because I can't stand inflicting pain on anyone. But now the state of the art has changed. It's become so much more here. When I first started, there was no one up here doing it. Now there are several people.
Now, I noticed in your brochure, you got the back of, just looking at this, you got a back of a heel.
Yes, this woman here, this is an example of camouflage.
Okay.
Okay, she had these spots here. She wanted them touched up. It takes about 2 or 3 sessions because I don't overdo. My theory and my philosophy is you can always add, but taking away is very expensive.
Right.
And so, you know, then after I finish doing her, I say, okay, we're going to see you in about 3 more weeks. And let's see how you did. If you really grab color, good. If you didn't, that's fine because I underdid you. But some people really slurp it up, some don't.
Do you ever have medical issues that you know, you're working on somebody and all of a sudden they start puffing up? I mean, do you have a medical facility available, or is that something that you
Well,
don't
fortunately, I've never had a problem. In fact, today I did have a client, though, and this is her 3rd time here. And she's old, a lot of skin laxity. It was very tough to do her.
So, okay.
You know, because you know, as we get older.
Right.
And as soon as I touched this one eye, man, she really started to bruise. Ooh. And it's hard for me to see my demarcations. However, I did the best I could. But when I looked at her, and I take before and after pictures, she has a lot of lid lag, so it kind of obscures everything. So what you see is primarily what's in the lashes, though she wanted it thicker. But you'll never have the look of a nice young skin that has a beautiful outline, you know.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
But she was happy with
You can't
it.
do miracles, but you can
I can't
definitely
do that.
improve.
And her husband thinks she's beautiful.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Well, that's very interesting. And you've had proper training. I'm wondering about the insurance. Do you accept insurance? I mean, are
No,
medical
I don't.
facilities calling you saying, listen, this person needs some help?
No, I've not. I've had 2 instances where the insurance would take care of it, and I don't really recollect. It was just within a year. I think it had to do with 2 mastectomies, and the insurance was willing to take care of it. Oh. But I have what is it? A young boy who's been coming in since he was 14. He was very shy. His parents come in. I don't do anyone like that unless there's, the mother comes in or there's a problem. But he lost all his hair, some immune disease, and he lost all his eyebrows and his eyelashes. And he just kept his head down all the time, and he wouldn't talk. And so I did him, and then you have to come back for follow-up. And anyway, this has been 3 years. He came back a couple months ago, smiling, gave me a hug, said, "Oh, Dani, thank you so much. You made me feel so good all my life." And he just tattooed the eyebrows on, and he's graduating from high school.
Mikhail Gorbachev. First thing that comes to my mind is he had a birthmark.
Yep.
And is that something you could have helped?
No, that would be laser.
Okay.
That's definitely
That's
laser.
That's taking away.
Yes,
right? You can't blend anything into that at all.
No, I wouldn't touch anything like that.
Right. All right.
No.
Because obviously there are people that have issues where, if they could get rid of a birthmark or...
Yes, well, I counsel a lot of them. I can tell. And a couple of them, I said, "Hey, you better have this checked out." And it was a melanoma. And so they were a precursor too,
So you can't get rid of freckles or anything like that, or can you? For instance, if somebody had a very light freckle, or
oh yeah, you can lighten it with skin. You can use it like I'm getting rid of mine here with the mandelic acid. You put it on, and it begins to exfoliate the upper layer of your skin. But yeah, you just put a little bit on your freckle.
Don't try this at home. Just with the acid, don't do it. Right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
no.
Leave it to the professionals.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for 16 years. Where do people? I guess you went to Hawaii to get some. That's how you got involved with this.
It was a bad experience that turned into a career. And I tell other people, if something bad happens, make it turn into a positive.
Right. Very interesting. So if people want to get in touch with you, because they feel like, well, you know what, color me beautiful. How do they do that?
Okay. Well, I'm not on the telephone book. Website, and that's where I get most of my business, is I always ask, how did you find out about me? Now it's pretty much word of mouth or my website. And then I went to the Google seminar up at Southern New Hampshire last week and a couple weeks ago, and I'm now going to be on Google and the search engines. But I was amazed where people say, yeah, I just typed in permanent makeup and your name came up, and I thought, wow.
That's a big plus.
Yeah.
And so basically, it's the name of it. Your business is called.
It's Extra Touch, and I just gave it that name. I was going to do fine lines, but I found out there was someone in Brookline, a car detailer, that had fine lines. So I just said Extra Touch, because I always said to my kids, if someone wants 5% from you, give them 10. I always give them that little extra.
Right.
So I thought, Extra Touch. Extra Touch,
and it's found on the web.
Yes, www.extratouchinc.com.
And if they want to call you, or would you prefer them to email you?
Well, on my website, they can email me, and my phone number is there, and I only work by appointment.
Okay.
And I'm kind of tapering down a little bit too, because I've got 10 grandkids, and so I'm now doing 3 a week. Now this has been a slow season.
Yeah, interesting. And you're located in Nashua.
I am in Doctors Cahill and Crest Dental Building. That's 303 Amherst Street.
303 Amherst Street. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just kind of amazed at when you first approached me and we were talking, you said you did camouflage, and I immediately think military, and I'm thinking, what?
I know, they think the little camouflage.
Yeah, so it paints a picture that that really isn't true, but you really are helping people just to accent their face or
scar retraction,
vitiligo.
Recreation of areolas. I did have one girl who wanted to come in, and she wanted to have freckles. And I said, oh, you don't know how many people want to get rid of freckles. And I discouraged her, because I said, after a while, those freckles are going to turn gray, and you're a pretty young blonde girl of 16. So I don't do young girls. I tell them, look as natural as you can.
Right, for as long as you can.
As long as you can, yeah. And when some high-maintenance women come in with big, thick makeup on, I say, it has to go. After a certain year, all it does is grease up, fall in the creases, and make you look even worse, So get good, clean skin and work from there.
Now, do you recommend any type of nutrition for people to have healthy skin for their face?
Yeah, definitely. I pretty much, a lot of it is genetic. I lucked out there were 6 kids. I was the oldest. My sister didn't fare out too well. I fared out good with the good skin. But I do believe in nutrition, organic. I use Clarisonic. I'm a consultant, so I'm always doing a lot of research, and I try out things before I tell my clients. I've done the injection in the lips, and I tell them, don't even go there. It hurts, and it looks terrible, and it's horrible.
And a lot can go wrong.
Yeah, I end up with little peas and bumps along my lips, and yikes. So, I say, if it works, I'll let you know. If it doesn't, I'm not going to let you know.
Are there products that you recommend that people stay away from at the store?
Yes, nanoparticles. That's the new thing. Nanoparticles. In fact...
where do you find these? In what type of products?
Well, nanoparticles, it's a whole new thing that you'll find out. The Howard Hughes, my husband, he's in research, and he gets all this information from the Howard Hughes
Foundation.
It's a huge, big research down in Texas, and a study on nanoparticles. They're using it in a lot of cosmetics. Now, you'll see one particular ad, and they'll say, watch this, and you'll see this little wrinkle here, right, on the eye, crow's feet. So they'll put it on, and then within minutes, you can see it begin to dissipate. Well, and then it's nanoparticles, but here's the thing about nanoparticles. And as I say, it's in a lot of cosmetics. It's also going into some foods. Sure, it makes you look great, but once it gets into the bloodstream, they don't know what's going to happen. It could affect your DNA. So I say, look, guys, when you're looking for something, look down on the ingredients, and if you see nanoparticles or anything beginning with a nano, stay away from it because it's not enough information.
Right. So it's still questionable as to what it's...
And, of course, stay away from suntan booths. No good. Absolutely no good. Wear sunscreen. I do organic. I eat organic.
I drink cod liver oil.
You take cod liver?
I drink it like...
Do you?
Yeah.
We've always had to take cod liver. Hey, Gag City when we were young.
Oh, yeah.
Mom lined us up, I still take it.
Yeah, it's very good for you. Got a lot of vitamin A in that.
Yep.
So, well, wonderful. Thank you for coming on the show. Is there any final thoughts that you want to bring to our viewers' attention? You have the website.
Yep. If people want to do this, I tell them, check out. Make sure, because there's a lot of people out there who are doing my business, they don't have the training, they falsify their credentials, just like a lot of them, they have their resumes.
I'm sure you have a lot of local testimonies that people could draw from. Are those on your website?
No, I don't have that on my website.
Okay.
I just do that verbally.
Okay.
But I kind of just, on my website, it shows before and after pictures. It shows, it gives my background, the organizations that I'm involved in. Right. And
but I mean,
be
references, do people, you must have some references.
If they want references, yes. A lot of my clients, in fact, I'll give them the name of clients, and I'll tell a client, do you mind ever being a reference? But I'm not going to let you know. I don't want to know. I will tell if they say yes, then someone is coming. I'll give them their name, and I say, but I don't want to know anything about it because I want that client to be honest and say, don't even go back to her.
Oh.
Or
she's
okay.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have a lot of happy customers.
I've never had a problem, and that's because I underdo and I'm ultra-conservative.
Okay. And say the name of your business one more time.
Extra Touch, Inc.
Extra Touch, Inc.
Inc, I-N-C.
All right. That's very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show, and I hope people get in touch with you.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. And we'll be right back. And welcome back to Gate City Chronicles. I'm here with Mr. Fred Teeboom. Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
You have quite an interesting topic to be talking about with this Holocaust Memorial. What is your interest in this? In how did this all start with this memorial?
Well, it's a little hard to precisely pin down when the whole idea started, but generally, with my background, having lived through World War II as a kid, as a hidden child, the Holocaust has always been in the back of my mind. Of course, I've lost many family members, well over 100 family members. And while I was working, before I retired, you're busy raising a family. These unpleasant things go to the back of your head. Even if I met people with tattoos in their arm, I'd ask them. They wouldn't necessarily like to talk about it, and you get preoccupied with many other things. But when I retired, I had more time to reflect and think about it. And it seems like almost overnight, the thought of starting a memorial came to me, almost overnight. I don't remember any gradual building up to the thing. Just I said, what I would like to do is maybe see if I can build a memorial.
You said you were a hidden child?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Hidden child means that I was Jewish, and it means that you had to be hidden away from the Nazis, because if the Nazis would find you or find your parents, I was separated from my parents. I didn't know my mother. My mother would visit me because she didn't stay at the same house I was staying at. I was hidden by very devout Christians that took enormous risk hiding me.
Like a Schindler's List type of thing.
Well, because if you were hiding a Jew, I mean, that could be a death sentence. You know, you have to understand the Nazis had war on Jews, and in particular, they had a war on Jewish children. Because like Goebbels used to say, you have to kill the kids. If you don't kill the children, then they'll grow up to fight us. So you have to get rid of them while we can. So as a child, I had to hide. And I can recall vividly in my own mind having to lie in bed and look the other way while some Nazi officer came upstairs inspecting the house we were in. And he said, the woman of the house, he says, who's the kid? And she says, oh, that's my son, he's not feeling well. And you had to take a chance, because if he said, get him out of bed, pull my pants off, found out I was circumcised. In those days, you were circumcised. They didn't ask any questions. They could just as easily put a bullet through my head.
Well, you could have been American, but obviously that wouldn't.
What do you mean American?
Well, Americans were practicing that as well, weren't they? At that time, circumcision. Was it strictly just Jewish?
It was, I think, in Europe. I don't think it was anywhere nearly as widely practiced as it is now. It was, you know, and I don't think the Nazis asked many questions. Saw a kid or men. That was a very typical way of identifying a Jewish men.
Yeah. No, it's really not even a. I'm in the story. I'm there. I'm in my mind, and I'm imagining the horror that you must have on an ongoing basis when these people came in.
Yeah, I was 2 years old when the war started, and I was 7 years old when it ended. I was hidden when I was 43, so I was 5 years old thereabouts. So my memory started coming back, and has come back about the periods that I had to hide. I remember planes flying overhead, bombs dropping, because we lived in Holland, so the British and American airplanes would fly overhead east to Germany in the evening and come back, several hours later. And I remember all of those things. I remember, I remember going hungry. I remember looking for food, even though I was hidden in a rather rural part of Holland. I was not in the major cities. I think if I'd been in the major city, but I had serious hunger, like in the late 40s and 44, 45, when the Nazis realized they lost the war, they got brutal. They tried to eliminate any evidence of anything, and they were really after the Jews and everybody else. That's when the death marches took place. That's when the order took place to just kill as many as they could in these concentration camps. I mean, this period was, in my opinion, the darkest period in human history. Never in history before, and my God, hopefully never again, has a country not only reached within its own country to exterminate their people, but it invaded other countries to exterminate their people.
Do you see any parallels with today in the extremists in certain groups trying to kill Jews and, of course, Christians?
Well, you see where people talk about these extremists, the skinheads, but visualize this. When Nazism started, it started basically with skinheads. It started with people that were, that called everybody every name in the book. The early SA, the brown shirts, were a ruffian group. They were bully type group. They You know, the biggest mistake was made was making Hitler into the chancellor. He had lost election after election, but the group that he headed up, the National Socialist Party, became the strongest party in Germany. It just caught on. So you're saying could it happen in America? I can see it could happen in America if we keep going on an economic downslide like we are. And that's what brought up Nazism: economic deprivation, economic hardships. When people become economically depressed, they start looking for others to blame. They start pointing at fingers. Where you've seen this in America is immigration, illegal immigration. When people start not having jobs, they start pointing to illegal immigrants and saying, why are these illegal immigrants in this country? You can argue, well, they should or should not be, but I've heard one guy tell me, he was a Republican. He says, you know, we should take all these illegal immigrants, put them on the railroads and train them out of here. And I said, you might as well put swastikas on the rail cars while you're doing it. So could it happen in America? Yes, it could.
What is fascism?
Well, fascism is the Italian form of Nazism, but it's an extreme form of socialism. It is an extreme form of socialism. The parties go out with extreme nationalism. It's extreme nationalism as well. Hitler gained power against the communists. Everybody's pointing at the communists.
Right.
That's how he gained power. Once he negated the communists, then they started looking for a small group they could point to. Now the Jews, especially in those days, could be identified. I mean, you look at Orthodox Jews, they look different, they act different, they talk different. They bandy together in neighborhoods. You see there's in Brooklyn even today, there's Jewish neighborhoods. So it's easy to target. It's easy to say, these are the evil people. Those are the people who cause our problems.
Right.
And that's how Dachau started. Hitler created Dachau, the first concentration camp, where he arrested all of his political prisoners and threw them into these camps. And that's how concentration camps and death camps started.
So you obviously have a personal interest in this memorial.
Yes.
You've lost a lot of relatives as well. Tell us what the progress you've made and where it stands.
Yeah, but what happens is the crystallizing point, I said I'm not sure how it all happened, but the crystallizing point was I went to an unveiling of a sculpture in a rotary next to Revere College. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
It looks like some people call it a clothespin. All right?
Right.
It's got that strange coloration.
Right.
Called patina, particular kind of rusting. And I looked at that. I went to that. And that's when it said to me, you know, something hit me about this Holocaust Memorial. And I looked up the artist, John Weidman. And we struck up an immediate relationship. And I said to John, while I was talking to all these people, no, John, I'd like to talk to you about a Holocaust Memorial. I had no idea what we had in mind. He had no idea what I had in mind. He said, call me. Now, John is a world-renowned sculptor. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't know that,
He's
no.
got sculptures in France, in Vietnam, all over Europe and Africa, I think, all over this country. He's quite a guy. He didn't have to fool around with me. But he called me, and he says, let's get together. He says, I've got some interest. It turns out his wife is Ukrainian, and even though he's not Jewish, and his wife's not Jewish, the Ukrainians got hurt badly.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right? And he says,
Wasn't it 3 million people were starved to death in Ukraine?
Well, the communists, you know, between the communists and Nazis, I don't know, you know, those people, poor people got squeezed every which way, just like the Poles.
Yeah.
You know, when the Poles first welcomed the Nazis because they thought they were going to be the anti-communists. Then it turned out to be worse than the communists. I mean, anyway, I met John Weidman, and we struck up these conversations. We went to, you know, Dunkin' Donuts and talked and sketched, and because I got a whole library full of these books and history. And he interviewed me, basically, you know, and I said, the kind of things I'd like to see memorial is I'd like to see the remnants of trains that took thousands of people straight from the home, straight in the train, straight to a death camp. I said, because I studied it, I said of all the Nazis had created over 1,000 camps, you know, some of them sub-camps, 100 main camps. But of all these camps, there were 6 camps created. 6 death camps created for a very specific purpose, to exterminate people. Auschwitz, Majdanek, Belzec, Treblinka, Chelmno, and I'm missing one. There's 6. So visualize, you were picked up in your home. You're told to go to a railroad station. I'm in Holland. You go to a train station. You went to a transfer station. You stuck on the transfer station. You didn't know where you were going. He says, well, we're going to a labor camp. Arbeit macht frei. Work will set you free, they said. You'll be treated well. Take all the valuables with you as you can. As much gold and as much silver as you can. All your jewelry will help you. They got these trains to Auschwitz, off Auschwitz. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. Stood in line for hours, separated out, straight to what they thought were showers. Yeah. They weren't showers. Undressed. You know, doors locked. Cyclone B gas down from the hole in the roof, down the chute. They lived another 10 minutes in extreme agony, choking to death. They'd open up the doors, and there'd be 1,000 people sitting in the chamber, all dead.
Yeah, recently a movie came out called The Boy in Striped Pajamas. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
I started showing that to some of the kids, and I don't think they were ready for that yet. But who is?
Well, the Boys in Striped Pajamas, you have to remember, if you look at it, there was a small little wall, right, with the barbed wire. They had the idea of the barbed wire, but it's a single wall. What they really had was double walls, electrified walls, with guard stations. I mean, these Nazis and the Germans were extreme. I mean, they put a lot of resources into this killing people. So, it wasn't that the little kid could walk up. But I remember the story. The main part of the story, of course, is the kid. He gets invited into the concentration camp, looking for, I think, the kid's uncle. Right. And they wound up being gassed.
So, parts from the train, as far as the memorial?
Part of the train, the walls. But the main parts, and you'll find that there are 6 massive walls made out of granite. They're 8 foot high, 6 feet wide, 2 feet thick, and they're at an angle. And on the inside, each wall contains one of the 6 names of the death camps, extermination camps. And the other side is an inscription, a sandblasted depiction, symbolism of barbed wire. And the walls and the fonts chosen, the fonts the artist used, John Weidman used, are identical to the fonts in these gates, Arbeit macht frei. The fonts are strange and weird, and the reason they're strange and weird is because the prisoners taken prison, the workmen had to weld these alphabets, the text. The only way they could show any opposition is to misform the B, misform the A. We copied those fonts. Those fonts, a little upsetting. You have to look at them and study them. They're uneven. The fonts copied from Arbeit macht frei gates, from Dachau, and from Auschwitz. The barbed wire is actually a shadow. John took actual barbed wire of the design and the star design that he used in those days, and he made, because you need a reverse image of the wire to sandblast, like a photographic process. He actually took the shadow of these wires and shined them on his material, so you see actual wire, the shadow of actual wire into the memorial. The center part of the memorial has a column. The column is made of bricks. The bricks simulate the bricks used in this crematorium when people are burned after they're killed. The bricks, we got the bricks from the city donated the bricks from the boiler house. So the bricks have some association with burning things. Right. And on the top of the brick is a big black cube.
How far is this completed?
The walls are up. The foundation is up. The inscriptions on the walls are done. The next thing, in the next few weeks, the center monument is going up. The bricks and then the cube, the black cube. And the way it's all scaled is you walk in, Inside these 6 massive walls, you look at the center monument, you look at the bricks, and the cube is a 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet large cube, shiny, black. You'll see your reflection in that cube. The idea of this memorial is not just to look at. The idea of this memorial is that you experience it. We try to experience the feeling. You look at that black cube, you recognize where you are. Between these names, extermination camps, it's like gravestones standing up for all those people have been, those bones are buried in a ditch somewhere. Nobody knows exactly where they are. And you look at this cube and you recognize that's an evil period of time. And then you look at it and you can see your own reflection. And when you see your own reflection, the idea is, to me the idea is, different time and different place, you could have been in an extermination camp.
And given the right circumstances, it again could happen. It again could happen here.
If the country is very diverse and it's very large, but Germany was very large.
Right. And
Germany is very democratic. There was no country more democratic than Germany. And you say, how could this have happened? You study the history. It was very democratic. It had a lot of parties, a lot of divergent voices, but they were economically depressed. There was no single leadership. Hindenburg was old and faint. There was all these people arguing with each other. Arguing, going to no conclusion, solving no problems. And in the middle of all this comes this fanatic, this madman, who I think is the devil. I think it's the devil incarnate. Comes in. How can one man who has no particular prior history, no scholarship, he was a lieutenant in the German army, how did he get so spellbinding that everybody started following him? You say, can this happen in this country? Enough deprivation, enough people being mad at everybody else, no solutions to problems, and some crazy nut comes in and starts blaming, easily blamed minorities.
Right.
And you're off to the races.
Somebody would say that was a first period of political correctness too, where people couldn't say the right things. You couldn't. You really had to say and walk the line, or otherwise you would stick
the
out.
Extreme line.
Right.
Extreme line.
If somebody wants to donate to this memorial and can continue and be part of the work, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way is to look up the website. They can call me, obviously, 889-2316. They can write me. But the easiest way to get to the website, we have a website, and the easiest way to do it is to Google and say Holocaust Memorial in Nashua.
Holocaust Memorial in Nashua.
Just Google it, come up, you see all the history. We started in 2009. The foundation went up in October of last year. This foundation, not a simple, this is designed, in my opinion, the last hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. This monument is made of stone, bricks, granite, heavily reinforced concrete. That's stone. That's a stone memorial.
And where will it be located?
It's right here at Rotary Park, south. You know where Globe Plaza is, or Shaw's Plaza, or Seminole Plaza, right opposite, off Main Street, right next to Selma Brook. Beautiful location. So this year we're going to finish the center part. The ashes going to go on. There are going to be ashes, permanent ashes on the foundation. The rest of the park, small park, a couple of acres, 2, 3, 4 acres, has been landscaped. There's going to be a brick path put in. If people want to donate $150, we can inscribe the brick in commemoration of whoever they want to commemorate this horrible period. And we got, several hundred donors, of course, because we're nowhere near the money we need.
Right.
You never do. It's difficult for people to identify with these things. I've had comments. We've been in the Union Leader with the main article. We've been in the Telegraph with frontline articles. We've been in the Jewish Reporter. We're now going to be in the Chamber of Commerce. This is another religious memorial. It is a Holocaust memorial against the evil that people can do to themselves.
Right. Would you mind coming back on the show at another time to talk us about the progress that you're making and maybe give us a little bit more background?
Yeah, whatever you want to do, Kevin.
All right.
I'm around.
I'm honored that you came on the show, and time is running out right now, so I really
you,
appreciate
Dan.
you
Thank
coming
you.
on, and we hope that you enjoyed this segment. And it's important that the younger generations know what can befall them if they're not paying attention.
That's what we're trying to do. It's the younger generation. We had the kids from Elm Street School came over, and we had the posters made up, and they were shocked to look at these posters. They can't quite believe that this happened.
Right.
They cannot believe. Now, the Christian kids, actually, in Christian schools, we got to talk to Christian schools, have a close identification. I ask them, can this happen? Half the hands go up in whoever in the audience in the Christian school. Public school, I got 80 kids on the foundation. 3 hands went up. You know why? Evil versus good. The Christian schools emphasize evil versus good. The public schools don't emphasize them.
Which is another topic for another time. And
Thank you,
I
Chris.
really appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll get a little more in depth.
You can see it's a hot topic for me.
It certainly is, and me as well. Believe me.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Gate City Chronicles, and I want to thank Fred Teeboom for coming on. And please, if you're interested in getting involved or sending a donation to this memorial, by all means, Google the
Holocaust Memorial in Nashua.
The Holocaust Memorial in Nashua. And thank you.